I have no respect for Abraham Lincoln. And before you jump in my comments and tell me how wrong I am, I want you to imagine if someone said, I don't want Jewish people living around here. I don't think they should be here. I think Hitler's doing some bad things, but we should just sort of contain it. We shouldn't go directly at that, and hopefully he'll stop. Because that's Abraham Lincoln on slavery. When he came into office, he was supporting an amendment to the Constitution. It would have been the 13th Amendment. It was called the Corwin Amendment. This amendment would have made slavery permanent and unamendable in America. He said of that amendment, I have no objection to its being made express and irrevocable. Abraham Lincoln was ready to push that to the states to get it ratified. Now, again, the argument is, well, we're just going to limit slavery here. Okay, we'll make that argument somewhere else, because I don't really have any patience for that type of argument. He was clear in his life, to be fair, that he did not like slavery. In fact, he even thought it was morally wrong. He said so on many occasions. Clap for him, I guess. But he was also equally clear that he believed in white supremacy and he did not believe in the rights of black people, not civil rights. He says, and I quote, I, as much as any other man, am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race. Frederick Douglass definitely thought he was prejudiced. He said that. Frederick Douglass was clear in his writings that he is just as prejudiced as any other little guy out here. Okay. Abraham Lincoln is a fan of colonization. Again, he doesn't like slavery. He thinks it's wrong. He even thinks it's morally wrong. But it's not like this immediate imperative. We got to just stop right now and do okay, colonization. To be fair, Abraham Lincoln is not unlike all the other abolitionists of his time. Most white abolitionists did favor colonization. Now, some would say, well, in their defense, what they're thinking is you're never going to get a fair shake here. You're going to have such a bad time here. So why don't you just go? Go where? Like, after a couple hundred years, we definitely ain't African. Like, where are we going? But Abraham Lincoln is very consistent with colonization. So in 1861, he actually takes steps to initiate a formal program here. Okay, so he's working on it. The Civil War starts in 1861 also. Now, in 1862, Congress actually passes legislation to provide funding for this whole scheme that he's coming up with. The White House is backing this, like they're pushing this. Also in 1862, Lincoln meets with free black folks at the White House to say, look, I want you to hear my great plans to send you elsewhere. The Civil War is very much in swing. Like, the Civil War is happening right now, and he is working hard on his plan for colonization. Okay. 1863, we think about the Emancipation Proclamation. The preliminary draft, though, does mention colonization. He's still working on it. Okay. 1 hour before he signs the Emancipation Proclamation, he cuts a deal to send 5,000 contraband to Haiti. In the middle of the Civil War, as we're pushing the Emancipation Proclamation, he's still working on his plan, y'all. He doing the thing. So 1863, again, he's still negotiating with foreign powers to say, look, if y'all got land in Central America, the Caribbean, why don't we talk about this? He's trying to work his plan. He's not focused on creating equality and justice here. He has no focus on, certainly not reparations, right? So in 1862, for example, to his credit, he does get emancipation in the District of Columbia. But the reparations go to the slave holders, not the enslaved. Okay, that's not, Also in 1862, he banned slavery in federal territories, to his credit. Again, he's thinking of the same scheme. As he goes, he wants people to sort of adopt this and will pay off the slave holders, not reparations for the enslaved. Okay. So we get to the Emancipation Proclamation because that's what we really know Lincoln for. And the thinking here is the great emancipator. He's a wonderful guy. But in reality, this is not like this huge moral imperative because this is wrong and we got to take this army to fight. That's not what was happening. The Emancipation Proclamation is a war tactic. In the first place, it allows for black folks to enlist in the Army and the Navy, and close to 200,000 people do that. They needed the bodies. But more than anything, this is about weakening your enemy. Let's deprive the South of labor. Let's deprive them of a reliable source to oppress. Like, this is war. International stage, England was a big customer of Southern cotton, and there was a concern that England might side with the South. Well, Lincoln is thinking, okay, we need to reframe this. Let's make sure England, who's already abolished slavery, doesn't come in on the side of the South. So let's sort of reframe this in an international sense. Like, you don't want to get with those guys. They're the evil enslavers, right? This is not about me. This is about you, kind of thing. In fact, when the war started, the official position of this country was this is not a war that impacts the status of enslaved people at all. Both sides agreed this is about white men fighting each other. We're not going to arm them. Lincoln only goes rogue when things start getting rough, right? Now, the first person to kind of push this is General Benjamin Butler down in New Orleans. He figures out, why are we returning runaway slaves? Because that's what the Union Army was doing. You can't have a war and say it was about destroying slavery when you're returning runaway slaves. But that's what we were doing. Benjamin Butler figures out, I'm only helping the enemy, so yeah, let's not do that anymore. That eventually makes his way up the ranks. So it's Benjamin Butler who kind of on the ground starts figuring out how to do this thing. Now, many people are going to say, listen, man, you got to understand, Abraham Lincoln, he's got all these constraints, constitution. Nobody's saying that about Nazi Germany. Nobody's saying that. It's just this is wrong and it's urgent and we should do whatever it takes. But for some reason with my folks, we got time to sit around and, while young girls are quite literally being raped with impunity, let's just sit around and think about it. While folk are being brutalized in ways that we can't even imagine because we have some primary sources, but there's a lot we don't have that talk about the great horror. Let's just think about it. I understand if this is not your experience, that you can just sort of intellectually applaud this man for, I guess, courage and say he's a man of his time. Let's take that argument. You know who else exists? I mentioned Cassius Clay, who's ready to quit because, like, you playing games. You know who else exists in that time? John Brown, who picked up arms. And you might say, well, John Brown is an extremist. But let me challenge that. Because the founding fathers picked up arms because they were mad allegedly over taxes. And if you can applaud them for picking up arms to fight taxes, is John Brown extreme to say I don't want little girls raped anymore? Is John Brown extreme to say people should not be brutalized and worked to the ground until they die? Is John Brown extreme when 4 million people at the time the Civil War broke out are living in that condition? Is he the extremist? Abraham Lincoln, he's a politician. He was a great politician. I mean, a masterful politician. But if you're asking me, a descendant of slaves who came from the cotton fields in this country, to look at him and honor him, to have any type of appreciation for that, you're asking me to clap for him only because this country is so anti-black that he actually stands out as a good guy. We've lowered the bar so far that we can applaud him. Before you ask me to applaud him, go to those folks and take that position on Nazi Germany and come back and tell me how it goes. Maybe there's a reason the abolitionist Wendell Phillips called Abraham Lincoln a first-rate, second-rate man.